niggas? You're watching Fugitive Red Eye, and welcome to another game review. So I've recently finished Y2K, a postmodern RPG. It took me 13 streams to complete, for a total of nearly 60 hours. I completed all but one side quest, because that one side quest specifically required you to go to a certain location at night, and the times you can walk around at night are very limited in the game. But I've gotten all 4 endings to the game, including both real endings, the secret and the main ending, and the 2 joke bad endings. So, I've played a good amount of the game, and now it's finally time to review it. So, Y2K was developed by YIIK Studios, who only have one other game under their belt, called Two Brothers. Two Brothers was a miserable failure, and you can tell that the creator was absolutely salty about that due to a cameo of the character from that game put into this one. I first heard of Y2K in a series of video essays that multiple people have done on it. I've watched like 10 different videos on Y2K, and I was fascinated by it, because everyone talked about how bad of a game it was, and how unlikable the main protagonist is. The game itself is a traditional turn-based RPG inspired heavily by games like Earthbound and Chrono Trigger, and is an homage to many of those games. Earthbound is clearly the most heavy inspiration, because a lot of the stuff from Earthbound they pay homage to in this. For instance, the character creation system is very reminiscent. You save using a phone. The aesthetic can be kind of similar, though it's in a 3D aesthetic rather than a 2D aesthetic. The game itself came out in 2019 and was originally on PC, but then later got ported to PS4 and Nintendo Switch as well. The game is strictly single player, does not contain a multiplayer mode, as it is an RPG, so that's to be expected. There are several things that make this game so unliked. For instance, the main character is very pretentious, full of himself, narcissistic, and self-centered. He goes on long monologues at many points in the game, constantly making everything about himself, and constantly talking about how bad of a person he is. It's been made pretty clear that the creator did intend for you to dislike Alex, the main character, although ironically, Alex is my favorite character in the game, despite the fact that he is a shithead that's very easy to hate on. We'll go more into that later, but his monologues can be very pretentious, grating, and very fucking long-winded, which is why the game does in fact include a reduced monologue mode, which I, of course, did not play because I wanted the full experience. The game takes place in 1999, leading up to the turn of the millennium, hence the Y2K name, although the 2 in Y2K is a Roman numeral, so a lot of people jokingly call it YIIK, because it fits it more. It is really fucking pretentious that they put the Roman numeral there. The game is very pretentious overall. I'll say that right now. Another reason that the game gets hate is because it does reference the death of Eliza Lamb with the disappearance of Sammy Park in the game. It's very clear that it's a reference. It recreates a lot of the elevator stuff in the death of Eliza Lamb. So it is a little bit distasteful in that regard, but I do think it is a little bit hypocritical that people single that out, but they're okay with things like Freddy Krueger, who was based on a bunch of people who died while having the same dreams in the real world, or they're fine with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which was inspired by Ed Gein. So I think a lot of us tend to draw arbitrary lines at when something that's distasteful is okay and when it's not. I personally didn't have a problem with that. It is a much more of a direct and obvious reference, but to me that didn't make it like so much more distasteful that I was offended. Another reason that the game tends to get hate is because the character of Rory can commit suicide if you don't go out of your way to prevent him from doing so. Which, of course, I intentionally went out of my way to make sure he did kill himself because I wanted to see how that would turn out. And then, of course, after Rory kills himself, Alex goes on a very long monologue, which we'll take a look at here.
When I touched the android, she took me away into her stupid mind dimension.
None of that matters anymore, Alex. Rory is dead.
Why the hell would he kill himself?
Sounds so angry at him.
A year ago, I would have thought, don't be so hard on yourself, or if someone wants to die, there isn't anything you can do to stop it. I would have convinced myself it was somehow not my fault. I wouldn't have allowed myself to feel guilty. Why was I so afraid of feeling guilty? Why did I continue to convince myself that nothing was ever my fault? Sometimes things are your fault. And sometimes you're supposed to feel bad, supposed to feel low, supposed to feel like you let
Here's
the
best
world
part.
down. You! Or in this case, me! I wanted to tell Vella he reached out to me. I wanted to tell her I had been cruel. I'd been so selfish. And then I was selfish again. I didn't tell Bella anything. I told her I was sorry. I cried with her. I did my best to not let her know I felt guilty. Why? Because I wanted her to like me. I needed everyone to like me. I needed to be a solid guy in everyone's book. No. I just needed to seem like a good person to myself. And I needed to change that. When was the last time I bought a new
Alright,
record?
yeah, no. When was the last time I bought a new record? Roy just killed himself, and that's your thought. When was the last time I played a video game? Yeah.
Debated with a friend about something I didn't really understand.
Now that monologue, personally, is one of my favorite scenes in the game, because Alex tries to make the entire thing about himself, and he goes on and he screams, and I personally think it's so bad that it's funny. A lot of people got really offended at that, too, because they're like, it's distasteful and, like, insensitive to people who commit suicide, and I get that, but I ultimately don't care. I thought it was actually kind of funny, which is why I'm glad that Rory killed himself in my playthrough, especially when you read his fucking suicide note, which, goddamn, let's take a look at that, actually, too. Listen up, dumb fucks. Most people kill themselves because of a mental condition. This is true in my case, too. The condition I suffer from is that I am not normal. God damn, this is so autistic, Rory. Why do you write like this? In the sense that I am not like every other one of your brain-dead zombies. I can think. Okay, Rory. Okay. Well, you can't now because you're fucking dead. I can reason intelligently. Yeah, well then why do you type like this, you retard? I can observe and learn from life. I can make my own decisions and follow through on them. And I can do these without any aid. God damn, there's so many fucking numbers here. From celebrities. Since everyone else in this world is a fucking retarded drone who revels. Again, Rory, you are one to talk when you are typing like this. Sure, you'll see this note and say Rory Manser's the crazy one. Jeez, Rory, why? Why did you write it like this, you piece of shit? I'm so glad you killed yourself. Oh, God. Oh, P.S. P.S. All of those gay pornos aren't mine, P.P.S., and I was superimposed. Jesus Christ, Rory, thank God you're gone. Fuck you. There's also a part early on in the game where Alex goes on a really long rant about the fact that he met a cat. It's ridiculous.
He was a funny-looking cat, with a funny resting face and a Salvador Dali mustache. I couldn't imagine picking out this cat to bring home from the store.
Well, again, and the voice audio, the dialogue is one of the worst things in this game, because it's very, like...
His coarse hair ran through
Holy
my fingers
shit,
as
it's
he
a
purred.
cat! Do we need, like, 10 dialogue boxes here?
Clearly he liked me. That was a good sign. Alex Eagleston, college graduate, friend of small animals.
And he'll monologue about just the most mundane shit. There's also a guy later on in the game that, like, goes on this big, long-winded thing about music, and that's really annoying. Again, the game's very hipster. Because, like, your weapon of choice is a fucking vinyl record, and a lot of the stuff in the game revolves around vinyl records and stuff like that, and just makes it clear to tell you, it's 1999, remember that. There's also some rants that some of the characters go on about racism and stuff. Specifically, the characters of Claudio and Chandra have this really obnoxious rant about racism. Also, Claudio has this really fucking annoying rant where he talks about why he loves shoujo anime, and it's fucking annoying, and I'm glad Rory eventually tells him to shut the hell up with it, even though Rory's the one who prompted the conversation. Now let's talk about some of the positives of the game, in my opinion, because there's actually quite a few things I actually really liked about this game. Number one, the visuals I really like. The game aesthetically looks really well. It's fucking broken and has a lot of problems. For instance, shit like this would happen. They live in the house that's fenced off. I don't think they like visitors. Okay, but like, there's the game. Hello? Hello? It like froze. What do I do now? Hello? And on top of that, you'd run into all sorts of other problems throughout the game. But overall, it looked pretty nice. The words don't sync up to the mouths a lot. In fact, it gets really desynced in like the last third of the game. But it's colorful, it's vibrant. I like the character designs when they're in the 2D sticker form, when they're talking. Their 3D models are less good, but I still enjoy them. And I do ultimately like the level design. On top of that, the combat itself is fine. But the problem is there's not enough variety. It basically becomes really repetitive as you go on through the game. You start learning which enemies are weak to which attacks, and then you just kind of spam those attacks. Or more than likely, you just level the shit out of Alex and just spam EP Strike or LP Toss. Both of those will do a lot more damage. I remember one of the reviews I watched said that LP Toss was the most overpowered move. I could never get it to be that great, except for in like a couple of fights. I had much more luck with EP Strike because it deals massive damage to the enemies. There's like a dodge mechanic as well that's usually pretty simple. Sometimes they add in some variation to it, but that actually just makes it more annoying. Particularly the Golden Alpaca fight and the Yuzo fight both really pissed me off because how difficult they were. Because they're not difficult because, skill. They're difficult because they're bullshit and will just insta-kill you and regenerate and do all this crazy shit while they take a ton of damage. On top of that, the enemies do not have enough variety. They recycle the same groups of enemies over and over again. Do you know how many fucking times I fought the Samurai Tortoises or the Mega Man parody characters? Like, every character was like a cheap parody of something, and it's like, okay, that's kind of funny the first time, but then when you fight them like 30 goddamn times, it gets really annoying. On to another major positive, though. The game has a kick-ass soundtrack. They have amazing songs like Crow Battle Theme. And Into the Mind, which itself was by Toby Fox. So the soundtrack was one of the really good things about it. The soundtrack and the aesthetic both were really good. The combat, like I said, was repetitive, but it was serviceable most of the time. Eventually it gets kind of grindy and annoying because you're just doing the same fight over and over again. But it was still fine. The story, on the other hand, is all over the goddamn place. It's convoluted and doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It involves this thing called the soul space, which is the space you go to between dimensions. And you typically go there when you die, but sometimes you can jump through it. And then all the characters tend to tie back to other characters. Like, Alex has, like, a bunch of different other versions that always, like, destroy the world that they're in. And, like, the Essentia 2000 claims that she's the same person as Vela and Sammy, although she's actually not. She's actually just the female version of Alex. So apparently she's linked in that regard. I don't know if that means Vela is also linked to Alex. Kind of confusing on that. Because I don't know if she was lying when she said she was Vela and Sammy. It's hard to follow, because you go into her mind dungeon and you get to see their lives, but was that all fake? I don't fucking know. Like I said, the story leaves a lot to be desired. It has a lot of interesting concepts. It's just the execution was very, very poorly done. Another thing about the creator is he does not take the criticism very well. He went on a big long rant about how video games should be looked at as art and how people who are criticizing the game just don't get his artistic vision behind it. Now let's talk about the endings. The two joke endings, which I brought up earlier, are really funny. Let's take a quick look at them.
We are going to destroy another reality. Are you coming?
Ooh, choices! Let's join him. Are you sure? Yes. I guess this is who I was all along. Oh, that's an ending! Thanks for playing? Question mark, frowny face.
So what are you saying? Will you help me defeat parallel versions of ourselves?
Will you help me defeat the parallel versions of ourselves? What happens if I say no?
Fine. I guess you're one of the bad guys. I thought you were different. I thought my story would be enough to get you off your ass and make you do something with your life. If you don't reconsider, everyone here is going to die. What do you say?
Let the world burn!
I thought my story would be enough to get you off your ass.
Is he gonna do this little... Yeah! Hey, there's 4 endings, see? See, those are fun, they're just there for laughs. But then you got the secret ending, which basically feels like a little bonus feature of beta content that was cut from the game. And then on top of that, you also got the main ending, which is super anticlimactic. There's a really kick-ass final battle, but it's piss easy because you just lose a couple of times and then you just unplug the enemies and you win. So it gets to be like, the difficulty's all over the place, because usually once you get into it, the enemies are pretty easy, but every once and then you'll have a huge difficulty spike where you'll just get insta-killed over and over and over again. And then you get the Essentia, and then you can usually handle most enemies, but then you get another difficulty spike where enemies just have a bunch of bullshit mechanics that just let them wipe you out instantly. The side quests are very mundane and, like, don't feel like they're very fleshed out. It's usually, go to this place, talk to someone, get something, take it to someone, and I realize that's how a lot of side quests are, but there's not much more depth than that. In fact, a lot of them are just like, hey, go fight these enemies at this place at this time. Like, hey, there's an enemy spotted at the reservoir, an alien spotted at the reservoir, go fight him. And that's it. That's the entire side quest. So there's little stupid stuff like that, and none of them are essential to the story, so I guess that's fine. But I would have liked there to be more to it. I never did get to complete the stop signs moving around at night quest, because you have to go there at night. I wish you could free roam at night more often. The puzzles in the game vary in variety. Some of them are kind of creative and fun, but a lot of them are just annoying. You get some interesting things to help you solve the puzzles, such as Panda, which lets you fill in gaps to walk over him, or you can use him to push a button that you need to have 2 people push a button. You can use Dolly, who's a cat that you throw at stuff that you can't reach. You can use a skateboard that lets you jump things, although the skateboard never fucking stops moving until it hits something, so you use that skateboard, make sure you got a clear path. Because if there's an edge and you don't have something to stop you, you'll just go right off that edge. Or if you're trying to use it to move around quicker, just make sure you know what's ahead so you can stop at particular points. I would time it so I would know where I would hit something with a skateboard so I could kind of move through the towns quicker, because that's really the only fast travel mechanic you really have at first. Like, you can go to the bus stop to go to other places, and later on you do get a car that lets you move faster, but early on in the game, the skateboard is really the only way you can kind of fast travel at all, like, move quicker through the town. Again, you still have the bus stop, but that only takes you 2 towns. There's not a whole lot of closure given on the Sammy storyline. She is much more prominent in the secret ending than the main ending, but she's still very much there in the main ending. I'll also say the main ending is super anticlimactic, because you just defeat the final bosses, and then you just don't know what happens after that. It just ends. There's just credits. But that said, both endings left a lot to be desired. The joke bad endings were funny, but again, aren't really definitive either. I just think overall that the game had a lot of potential that it just kind of squandered. Which is why I'm actually really looking forward to the I.V update. I really look forward to that. Maybe it's supposed to be pronounced 1.5, but it's Y2K, so of course they're using Roman numerals again. But that's apparently supposed to add a bunch of stuff, so I'm actually looking forward to that. So overall, this game is a guilty pleasure of mine. I don't know why, but I fucking love it. It's stupid, it's bad, it's frustrating. The plot is convoluted, hard to follow, and nonsensical. The characters are unlikable. Again, Alex is the only one I ever tend to even enjoy, just because his long-winded rants where he screams I just find kind of amusing. And Rory is only memorable because he kills himself. Claudio and Chandra are both kind of there. Claudio's kind of annoying with his shoujo anime bullshit. Chandra's kind of obnoxious with her rant about racism. Vella's just kind of there. She's like set up as a love interest for Alex, but there's not really a lot of depth to it. I know that she, like, is supposed to be with you in every universe, and, like, again, she's supposed to be the same person as the Essentia and Sammy, although she might not be the same person as the Essentia, because the Essentia could have been lying. I don't know. But yeah, the game is a glitchy, broken, obnoxious, pretentious mess, but I kind of was fascinated with it the entire time through. Because there's so many little bits of potential you could see here and there were some moments I genuinely liked. For instance, I genuinely really liked the final battle, even though it was piss easy. I thought the spectacle was kinda cool. It doesn't really deliver a lot of the payoffs it builds up to, but nevertheless, it was still kinda cool. I thought the concepts of the Mind Dungeon and the Soul Space were pretty cool, too. Again, underperformed on delivery, but overall I thought the concepts were pretty neat. And again, part of my love for this game is ironic. It was kind of fun to shit on while I played it. Like, just to sit there and make fun of every aspect of the game, and also to just call out how pretentious and obnoxious it is the whole time. That brought me some joy, too. I don't know, I just kind of liked Alex's dumb, long-winded rants most of the time, even though they were pretty fucking stupid and pretentious. I got a lot of enjoyment out of them. I do think that those I actually preferred over a lot of the actual gameplay, because the combat, again, becomes so repetitive with no enemy variety, really. Again, it's like aliens, Mega Men, samurai tortoises, just a bunch of shit that you just recycle over and over again. Stop signs, cone monsters, they're all the same. Poo, rats, boing boing. They're just a lot of the same enemies you just fight over and over and over again. It's really annoying. Especially since a lot of the times you'll fight enemies that were very clearly designed for a specific area, but you'll fight them in other areas. Like the samurai tortoises, it's like, okay, I get it, you're fighting them in the sewer. But then once you get out of the sewer, you fight them fucking everywhere else. Also, what the hell was up with the golden alpaca? They don't do anything with it. You fight him once, and then you see him in, like, one of the areas where you're going through the sewers, and he talks about how he failed and stuff. And then you just never see him again. What the hell was the point of that? Also, I thought I cleared all the monster dens, but it said I didn't, so I'm a little confused on that. But overall, I had a lot of fun with the game. It was frustrating at times, and it was boring at other times. But overall, I'm glad I played it. I definitely do see where a lot of people are coming from with their big criticisms and video essays on the game, because it's definitely a bad game, and there's a lot of problems with it. But like I said, for me, it's kind of a weird guilty pleasure, where I'm not sure what I find so intriguing about it, but I love playing it. It's also just kind of a meme to play it, like it's kind of like a shitpost of a game. Like, that's what kind of makes it fun, too. So overall, I enjoyed it. It's a terrible game, but I have this weird love-hate for it that makes me want to keep coming back, and I absolutely look forward to the new update when they release it. Anyway, this has been Fugitive Red Eye. I hope you've enjoyed this game review. Have a good one. Toodles.
That sucked. I'm sure glad that's over with.
Fuck it. We've come this far.
I'm a Michael Jordan.